This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
The biggest icon in podcasting.
Welcome in, everybody, to the latest DocNJock podcast. I am the Doc, John Macaroon, excited to broadcast with my guy, Adam, the Jock Strozinski. A lot to get to. The Lions coming off their bye week, a big game in Dallas, but we're going to start this week, celebrating the Detroit Tigers, because no matter what happens, we're broadcasting as the Tigers are leading the Guardians 1-0 in the first inning. It's a great opportunity, man. Comerica Park looks full, as it should be. And it's a great opportunity to celebrate a baseball team that won the series against the Astros, dominated. And it's no small feat, because when you really look at it, the Astros were perennially in the ALCS. To go in there and basically just dominate, to go out there and handle business. We're talking after the game in which Tariq Skubal, just, if you got a chance to watch it, man, it was a masterpiece. He went out there and did what aces do. 97 in the zone, just pitch after pitch after pitch, throwing fire, and it was just amazing to be able to go on this ride. What's it been like for you to see them win a series and now compete strongly to potentially even advance past the Guardians?
Look, my expectations for this team have dramatically changed from a couple of weeks ago, from a couple of months ago, from the beginning of the season. At this moment in time, I expect them to beat the Guardians. I expect them to get into a series with what might probably be the Royals, maybe the Yankees, and I expect them to win that series. Like, I might be coming from a place that is maybe a little bit way too high on the Tigers right now, but I'm expecting them to get to the World Series. With what they've been able to do, it is unexplainable. They have clutch hits. They're getting hits from guys who haven't hit. They're rolling out guys from their bullpen. Tariq Skubal striking out 11 guys and just looking undefeated. This team right now, if you're a Detroit Tiger fan, your expectations should be through the roof, and you should be on cloud nine. This has been so much fun, and this has been so refreshing. Like we talked about, I think it was on last week's podcast, it's been 10 years since we've been able to talk about playoff baseball. And to see what these guys are doing right now is absolutely incredible. It is so much fun. Game 2 was a nail biter. It was absolutely nuts. And to have Carpenter come through clutch in the 9th inning was bonkers. And then you take that back to the Houston series for this team to actually get the win, sweep Houston, and they did it in the 8th inning. Like, these guys are just figuring out ways to get stuff done. And if you go back to Game 2 and you just kind of watch the at-bats and you watch what was going on, the Guardians were up there kind of swinging at a little bit of everything. The Tigers looked very disciplined at the plate. That's something we really haven't been able to delve into or say a whole lot. And this team is just manufacturing runs, figuring it out, and they've got arguably the best pitcher in all of Major League Baseball right now. It's only one of them, but they're able to patchwork their pitching staff and get this done. This has been absolutely incredible, and I'm on cloud nine. I feel like if you're a Tiger fan, you should be on cloud nine. Where are you at with this? Because you were a guy who was incredibly high on this team. Well, much higher than me. I shouldn't say incredibly high. Much higher than me. You expected this team to win, I think it was 86 games. I don't think you had them getting in the playoffs, but you expected them to contend for a playoff spot. I didn't even expect that. And then they've gone on this improbable run, and it's been absolutely bonkers to watch it unfold. So where are you at as a Tiger fan and kind of watching some of the stuff that you predicted come to fruition?
Yeah, it's been great, man. When you look at it, it also, too, to give context, it wasn't really because I felt confident in the Tigers. It was because I felt like the division, the Central, was pretty much god-awful. I felt like...
But you know what's messed up about that? They got 3 teams into the playoffs.
That's the next point, which is it's crazy in that you could end up facing the Guardians and then facing the Kansas City Royals for the right to go to the World Series. It does have some weird team of destiny, like, kind of when Tigers fans saw the Cardinals do something like this, you just realize, wait a minute, there's a chance this baseball team can do something maybe a little bit more than what everybody thinks. Everybody thinks, well, maybe, the first game against the Guardians was just like, oh man, that kind of sent people into a panic, like you got pimp slapped. But I think the Tigers, and that's kind of was my series prediction online on Twitter. I said, I got the Tigers in 4. I feel like that they were going to lose game 1 and win the next 3, because of the fact that Scuba was going to go in game 2, and it's kind of playing out. We got to see how game 3 shakes out at Comerica, but right now 1-0 lead. Herder just got out of the second inning, so this is good. My heart rate was a little bit elevated here listening to you talk a little bit, and now I was like, oh boy, because literally AJ Hinch is going crazy here. He has, Montero start, goes 6 pitches, and then pulls him out. You're just like, this is craziness. And what's been fun about it, and I know we talked about it in the past, is there was no expectations. So this is truly a ride where you just feel like you're playing with house money. But there's still a competitive nature that you say, you know what? Let's go out there and compete. Let's be young and dumb. Let's be the team of destiny. This is crazy. This is something like, you know what? There is talent. There is grit. But also, too, we are underselling the managerial experience of AJ Hinch, who's won a World Series, who's literally understanding like, hey, I don't have starters, but I have great arms. So let's just say, okay, let's just go out there and take advantage of the arms. We know specifically in our time that we're going to meet, we know which pitcher is going to match up with which batter. We are playing from ahead. We are the aggressor. We are the ones matching up with what we think is best. And in the end, if you have a great bullpen and you don't really have starters, you know what? You just roll with it. You have one legitimate bona fide superstar. You got a couple mid-range arms, but there's because we are literally watching a new way in which baseball is being played. It's not new in terms of someone doing it, but someone doing it to this degree of success is crazy. Like literally, I love the phrase, it's pitching chaos. It's literally, let's just take advantage of the strengths that we have. Let's not focus on the fact that we don't have a starter. Everyone else is like, yeah, your starter's got to go 5 innings. But AJ Hinch is out there operating. They're showing him on the screen right now. He looks like a wizard. Like literally he's probably right now staring at the screen going, okay, I know my batter is going to have this much edge against this pitcher right now, and my next pitcher is going to have this much edge against a lefty, a righty, a lefty. And you're just like, wow, he's a wizard. He understands with his team what's going on. And it's been fun to watch. And like I said, when that home run hit in game 2, everybody in Detroit celebrated. It's been fun. You're serious, huh? You start to really think this team could potentially not only end up in the World Series, but maybe win it?
Yeah. I mean, like, that's where I'm at. And look, this is the thing. You talked about AJ Hinch and what he's meant to this team. I think he might be the most underrated player right now because of all of the things that he's orchestrating behind the scene. If this guy doesn't win Manager of the Year, that's probably the biggest injustice in sports right now because he's done such a miraculous job with what he's had to work with. I mean, you go up and down that lineup, there's really nobody on that team that you're like, yeah, that's an all-star caliber player. There's nobody that you're like, if you were doing a fantasy draft, you're like, I need to have that guy. It's really just Tarek Skubal. And that's just the one guy from the pitching rotation that you have. The rest of the rotation is comprised of just arms, just guys. And like you said, he's rolling dudes out there, letting them pitch an inning, throwing 6 balls, and he's like, all right, cool, go sit down. You're done for the day. Like, what? Like, this has never been seen before. Like, this hasn't been done. This is absolutely bonkers. And look, this team, and that's what this is too. It's a team. Like you go back. I was flying around this morning, and they put up a graphic showing the 2014 team, and that team had Ian Kinsler, Victor Martinez, JD Martinez, Nick Castellanos, Miguel Cabrera, Alex Avila, Don Kelly was on that team, and Andrew Romine. That was your lineup, right? And like that team had Hall of Famers. That team had All-Stars. That team had arguably the greatest hitter in baseball, and they couldn't do it. Like you had a team comprised of superstars, and they couldn't get the job done. This team is like basically guys who are just a little bit more athletic than you and me, just going out there and just getting it done. Like that is what this is. It's like going to a pickup game, throwing some bats and balls out there and be like, all right, everybody grab a mitt, let's go play. And that's what these dudes are doing. And to me, it just speaks to what AJ Hinch has been able to instill in that locker room, the culture that he's put forth, and the guys buying in. I don't think there's any misgivings here when you've seen what happened with Javi Baez going out and then this team really stepping forward and getting on a winning streak. Like we all know Javi Baez is not great. Javi Baez is not a good player. I think there's a little bit of a superstar mentality there, especially since this guy was making like $98 million. Like there's once he kind of left that locker room and they put him on the IR, this team, it was like rocket packs were strapped to their back, and they've just basically outdid any expectation I think any of us have. And it's been awesome to see, and it's been so much fun. And look, call me a homer, call me a guy who's drinking the orange Kool-Aid, whatever you want. I think this team has a legit shot to get into the World Series and make some noise and cause some havoc and possibly be like that 2006 Detroit Tiger team. That was a team that wasn't supposed to get there, wasn't supposed to do what they did, and yeah, they fell short. I think this team could possibly get it done. So there's some similarities there between this team and the 2006 team, but I've been impressed, and it's been so much fun to watch.
It has, man. It's been crazy. It's been fun, and this baseball team is likable. They're gritty. And they've taken on the identity of what the Lions have done, so the fans are really behind it. The Lions have caught on, so it's just been really special to see, and it's been fun to realize that there's some opportunities for some matchups that really kind of favor the Tigers in terms of hitting, offense, and you realize, Cobb is 37 years old, started the year on the injured list with a different team, so you've got it set up pretty good at the moment, and I do think that you're looking at a baseball team that has a team of destiny. It's just going to be tough, I think, to win it all, but they got a shot. They got an opportunity to go out there and compete at a high level and really do the best that they can to execute and perform and make the city proud. And it's good to see. Can you believe that The Athletic really ranked and had the nerve to put, which it doesn't make any sense. I don't think that the Comerica Park is by any means the best ballpark for support, but eighth? I just think that when you look at it from that perspective, you realize people don't really understand what Detroit sports are about. This fan base supports winners. They support gritty teams. They support teams that win. And you're looking at a packed, sold-out Comerica Park that's loud. People are all about it. So I just think that people that don't understand Detroit are crazy to even think that the atmosphere at Comerica is eighth. I mean, come on, just a couple more runs and you'll start to see this ballpark scream. You saw the drone show. You saw you flew over it. What was it like? It was packed at noon. I was thinking to myself, my God, these people don't work. I wish I could get off at noon and get down there to a pregame party. I'm like, gosh, I got to do 5 different things beforehand. I got to talk to my guy. I got to make sure he lands safely and gets back to town so we can do a podcast. What was it like just flying around in general to be around it?
It was impressive. Look, the Tigers have done a absolutely fantastic job. I honestly wish I was down there today, not just flying overhead. It was pretty awesome to see the streets filled. It wasn't to the level of opening day, let's put it that way, but it was busy, and people were lined up at noon trying to get into the ballpark. So 3 hours ahead of time, you got people lining up trying to get in, which I thought was impressive and awesome. And look, it's a little bit chilly today, and it's pretty windy out there. And you've got these people kind of braving some of those elements, trying to get into the stadium 3 hours before the first pitch. I think it's awesome, man. It's been absolutely incredible. And for the article to rank them 8th, I just think I don't want to call it lazy writing, okay? But I think it's just a writer who's just a little bit out of touch. A writer who doesn't really realize what's going on. I'm assuming he probably seen a couple screenshots or screen grabs of Comerica Park probably earlier in the season, or maybe even a little bit later in the season, and just kind of was like, yeah, okay, that looks like a lame ballpark. And look, they play a lot of afternoon games. The afternoon games are absolutely great, but it's hard for people to make time to get out to a Wednesday afternoon or a Thursday afternoon baseball game in the middle of June. You know what I'm saying? So like, if you're going to base your reporting off of that, you're wrong. The fact that it was ranked 8th is bonkers. That place is wall to wall right now, and it's orange, white, and blue everywhere, and the fans are absolutely crazy. Hope all of them are liquored up having a great time because this has been so much fun.
Any chance for you to go down on Thursday to check it out, or are you just packed as well?
I might end up getting sent back up to go fly over it beforehand. I personally won't have time to get down there. You know how it is, man. You got a new kid. All kinds of things are changing. All kinds of stuff's happening. I'm lucky I have time to sometimes sleep. So, it's I don't have the ability to get down there. I got to make concessions, and I've got to navigate stuff and talk with the wife to try to get a couple tea times in before the season's over here. So that's kind of where we're at right now. What about you? Are you going to be able to get down there at all? I know Thursday's usually your day off.
Yeah, no, but the Tiger schedule is not conducive with the Lions as well. The Lions have a full day of media. The game time is pretty good, but I'm going to get home around that time and handle business and check it in. And plus, I'm not going to lie, I've been to my fair share of games at Comerica, and I can enjoy it from the comforts of my home. The office setup is really nice. It's really cozy, a lot of wrestling belts, and I can kind of stew in peace because the anxiety level's high, and you're always like, okay, I want to win. I want to see it. So Thursday is going to be crazy. The day this podcast drops, you get a chance. A fresh new Doc and Jock, the Tigers play, and the Red Wings start their season because home opener, I believe, is tonight. And you recognize this is a hockey team that has a little bit different expectations than the Detroit Tigers. And I do think that, having Chris Ilitch have this opportunity to kind of move things along in a different direction is just, positive. For the Red Wings, I just think that a lot has to go right. They've kind of tapered expectations. A lot has to go right, but I do think that the fan base, and I'm curious to get your sense of how you're viewing this season, I do think this team has to make a run to the postseason and have to get in it. I mean, half the teams in the NHL make the postseason, so it's not out of the realm of possibility that this team could take strides forward. They have to be seeing what the Tigers are doing and going, okay. And I think it lends to more patience for individuals to kind of stay with the Wings, even if at the All-Star break maybe they're not competing well. I do think this hockey club gets to the playoffs and even has a run like the Tigers because of what they got going on. Tell me a little bit about your thoughts on the upcoming season for the Red Wings. What's your level of optimism? What's the biggest key you think for them to make that postseason push?
So I think this is a make or break year for them. Like if they don't make the playoffs, we are really looking at the Yzer plan and we're scrapping it and we're going in a new direction. We're looking for somebody else. Hey, Steve Yzerman, really glad you are a Red Wing Hall of Famer. Really glad you are a Hall of Famer, period. Really happy for everything you did for this team, but we've got to move on. We've got to make corrections. We've got to make adjustments. We've got to go someplace because what you're doing just isn't really working. So it is a make or break year for me. I'm holding this team to the standard of it is playoffs or bust. And here's the thing. When I look at the roster and I look at what they did in the offseason, I'm a little underwhelmed. Actually, I'm really underwhelmed. I think goaltending is a monster issue for this team. You look at who they've got between the pipes. Billy Husso has showed time and time again that he struggles to stay healthy. You got Cam Talbot had a fantastic run. It was probably 6, 7, maybe 8 years ago. Cam Talbot was kind of the talk of the Oilers, and he was getting it done for them until he wasn't. And then Alex Lyon, to me, he's a bit of a coin flip, right? You're not really sure what Alex Lyon is. Is he the guy who can go out there and steal you 9 games in a row? Or is he the guy who goes out there and ends up losing 6 games in a row? To me, Alex Lyon, I still am not sure what I'm getting with him. I'm not sure if he's a number 1 goaltender or if he's more of a number 2 goaltender that gets highlighted as number 1. I do not know. So goaltending has a bunch of question marks all around it. They're going to run with 3 goaltenders. I don't know who's the number 1 guy. It might be Billy Husso. Alex Lyon might take that job. I don't know how much tread Cam Talbot has left on him. So it just question marks in between the pipes. You look at the defense. Defensively, I'm happy you got Mo Seider locked up. Mo Seider is a top 10 defenseman in this league. Mo Seider is a G. Okay, after that, it's super mid, right? Like Simon Edvinsson, he's coming up, and you're hoping he takes steps forward. You're hoping Simon Edvinsson is is a guy who can complement Mo Sider. Jeff Petrie, I think he's washed. Oli Mata is maybe your sixth defenseman. Eric Gustafsson really should be your seventh defenseman. You lost a lot of points by losing Gostisbehere last year. I don't know if you've got anybody on that defense who can kind of offset what Gostisbehere brought offensively. Yes, Gostisbehere was a bit of a liability positionally, but I don't know if you have anybody who's going to be that much better defensively to kind of offset his offensive production. And then you look at the offense. Offensively, you and I both have kind of felt the same way about Dylan Larkin. Really good number 2. Don't really think he's a superstar. He's kind of a star, but it's not much better than that, right? Alex DeBrincat, again, a guy who's a star, has the ability to take games over for parts of the season, but then kind of fades and then maybe might come back. He's a dude who needs to be paired with somebody who's going to be able to get him the puck so he can create and score. He's not necessarily the guy who can take over the entire game and put the team on his back. We've seen that last year. So you got two dudes that you're paying a bunch of money to that are good, but they're not elite. And that's kind of when you come to Lucas Raymond. Lucas Raymond is a guy who you are hoping is that elite talent. You're hoping he is the guy. Look, last year down the stretch, he was the guy who looked at everybody in the room and said, get on my back. I'm going to carry us. We're going to go get a playoff spot. Now, yeah, they fell short, but he was the guy who was really rowing the boat and getting these guys to where they needed to be. After that, it's just kind of a list of who's who, right? Like Patrick Kane and Vladimir Tarasenko, 2007 called, they want their all-stars back. You know what I'm saying? These are older guys who, yeah, they've got a little bit of tread left on the tire, but these guys aren't superstars anymore. These guys aren't elite. Yeah, they're going to have games where they kind of stand on their head and they look really good, but these are not the same players that they were years ago. Andrew Kopp, JT Compher, these are all guys who are just kind of guys. These are our third and fourth line players. And that's when you get to Berggren. You're hoping Berggren takes steps forward this year. You're hoping Berggren can kind of come in and show you a little bit of what Lucas Raymond has. And you're hoping that you can maybe squeeze a little bit out of him and try to get some really good production. Look, Marco Kasper sent down. He's basically the next forward up. He had a really good camp. He's a guy who, when he steps onto the ice, when he plays for the Red Wings, you're hoping he is also on that level of Lucas Raymond. So I think what Steve Yzerman did is he basically pushed all in and he said, look, we're sticking with the game plan. We're not going out. We're not really getting anybody in free agency. We're not really adding to this team. Defensively, we'll kind of figure it out here. It's going to be one of those things where we are counting on the young guys. We're counting on the Edvinsons. We're counting on the Berggrens. We're counting on the Marco Kaspers. We're counting on all of these guys to take giant steps forward and play better, while we're looking at guys like Mo Sider and Lucas Raymond to take it up a notch and to be the guys that we can lean on offensively and defensively, and then we're just going to put some pieces around them. So to me, really underwhelmed with what they did in the offseason, really underwhelmed with this starting roster that they have. Look, I think they have the chance to make the playoffs. I think this is going to be one of those seasons, especially after watching what I watched the other night with the Florida game. It was a Florida Boston game. Like, there were like second period, I think there were a total of like 8 goals already on the board. I don't know if this team has scoring to compete with teams like that. So I think it's going to be a struggle to get into the playoffs. I think this team is going to have to play stylistically in a way that's going to give them chances and opportunities to win. So whether that means leaning on guys and playing a little bit more defensive minded and then trying to break out and get some odd man rushes for goal scoring chances, or whether that is possessing the puck for an eternity in the offensive end and peppering the goalie with shots and just trying to clean up the garbage in front and put it behind him. I'm not sure what they're going to be when the puck drops to start the season, but they're going to have to do some things as far as the coaching goes to get the job done, because I just don't think they necessarily have the talent right now. I think this is a very risky play by Steve Yzerman, especially in what I'm deeming a make or break year, because you've got to get to the playoffs and you've got to be a hard out for a team. I just don't see the scoring in defensively. I see I see some guys who could be good, but really and truly that depth chart of those guys who could be good is probably 2, maybe 3 deep. And then goaltending, like I said, it's just a bunch of question marks. I don't know what you have in between the pipes. So there are lots of rooms for improvement, and there are lots of room on this team to get better. Now, they could overperform, and that's what we're all hoping happens. But Steve Yzerman has to get this team to the playoffs, and these guys are going to have to perform, some of them above their head.
No doubt. And I just think this year, you look at it from the perspective of guys like Alex DeBrincat. When Larkin went out last year, he went into the slump at the worst possible time. It was kind of jarring to see that a guy that was a prolific goal scorer kind of went away, especially when the Red Wings needed him most. And I just think that was pretty critical. That was pretty unacceptable. You hope that he learns from that and can be a guy that steps in and handles business, especially throughout the season. He's a leader, and you can't have that situation. And so I'm hoping that the Red Wings take the next step, 98 points to 100 points, get into the first round, have a competitive series, and see what happens. So we'll see what happens as the Red Wings progress. But like everything, defense, goaltending, and that's what Lalonde has said. And I think they do need, from the perspective of the people in charge, I think Lalonde has to be a little bit better, pushing the right buttons, doing a little bit more in terms of special teams and power play, mixing the lines correctly, and making sure that you get guys that are not putting the puck in the net consistently, get them out of the lineup and put guys in and have that right balance of youth and experience, because it's right there. And I'm kind of glad that Patrick Kane's back. I think that's really good for the power play. I think that it really kind of sets you up. But, there's some things plus minus wise. There's some things defensively that you're always going to have missing with a guy like that. But you like his scoring. You like his veteran presence. You like the connection that he's going to have with DeBrincat. So you're absolutely right. I do like that. I think Raymond's going to have to take a step up and have an opportunity to continue his goal scoring prowess. And I do think maybe there's going to be a move made, that can maybe help. And before we talk about the Lions, what 1 or 2 teams in the conference really set the tone for what the Wings have to do to compete? Boston's always a pain in the ass. Tampa is a perennial situation in which you're always looking like, what the hell? What's going on in the league outside of the Red Wings? Who made some nice moves, and who are the Wings competing with directly to try and get to the playoffs?
I think it's the team that you've compared yourself to the last 2, maybe 3 years. It's a team that was kind of coming up and building at the same time you were. They obviously built faster than you did, and they're the defending Stanley Cup champs. I think it's the Florida Panthers. If you want to look at a team that you want to be like, or that you want to kind of emulate a little bit, it's Florida. Florida brought back a lot of the guys that they had from that team last year. They've got Bob in the net. So Sergei Bobrovsky comes back after winning a Stanley Cup. He's a veteran. He's solid. He's a good goaltender. And they're able to put guys around him and in front of him to help make him look better. They've got a good defense. They play a very physical brand of hockey. And that being said, they've got guys who can score. They've got tone setters. They've got guys who can go out there like a Chuck, who will rough you up, get in your face, not afraid to mix it up, not afraid to lay the wood and lay the body. And then he creates enough space for some of these guys to go out there and score goals. Here's a really underrated guy on that team, Evan Rodriguez. This is a guy who probably a lot of people don't know about. You probably got hip to him last year during the playoffs. This is a guy who does nothing but score goals. This is a guy who comes up big in big moments. This is a guy who plays his role and is an incredibly solid player. Does not have a problem throwing the body, does not have a problem going to the net, does not have a problem putting the puck in the back of the net, and will play on the penalty kill if asked. So, those are types of guys that you need to go out and get. During free agency, that was a guy I wanted Steve Yzerman to go grab. Just make him an offer, see what you can do. Get him here, because I believe he was an unrestricted free agent. And obviously, he signs with Florida to stay in Florida, but it's players like that, right? That's not necessarily a household name. Kachuk's a household name. Evan Rodriguez, not necessarily a household name, but this is a guy who gets it done. And that's what you're looking for. You're looking for guys who can perform in crunch time and perform in the playoffs when everything gets ratcheted up a couple of notches. DeBrincat, for everything great that he did in the beginning part of the season last year, he became a ghost at the end of the year. And that makes me nervous when you get into the playoffs. Does he shrink up? Does he get small when everything gets kind of turned up. Lucas Raymond, if you ask me, Lucas Raymond is going to be a playoff all-star. He's going to be a nightmare for teams in the playoffs. The rest of these guys, I don't know. Like Dylan Larkin, I'm not sure what he's going to be. I don't even know if he'll be healthy to get to the playoffs, Patrick Kane, he's a killer. He'll be fine. But the thing is, he's slowed down a little bit. He's not the same player he was years ago. Vladimir Tarasenko, that's a guy who was on that Florida Panthers team last year. He's a guy who knows how to get it done. He's won a couple of Stanley Cups. He's been there. He's done that. So he can help you get it done. But again, if you're asking this guy to be anything more than a fourth-line winger, maybe a fourth-line center, a third-line center, I don't know what you're expecting from him. Because last year when he played for Florida, he had limited minutes. And, yeah, he was able to put the puck in the net, and some of those goals were big. But he doesn't have the same wheels he had years ago. So you got a couple of aging veterans who still have a little bit of gas in the tank, but I don't know how far they're going to take you in the playoffs. You really need some of these young guys to really show up and help take you a little bit further. So for me, I look at a team like Florida, and I want to be the Florida Panthers. They play a style of hockey I really like. They are built in a way that I think is sustainable, and in a way that you can I don't want to say build dynasties, because with the salary cap, it's really hard to build a dynasty, but it's a team that you can string together multiple years of really competitive, good hockey. And you can be a threat, and you can be a playoff contender, and you could be a Stanley Cup contender, being built the way that they're built. So I look at a team like that, and that's who I want them to emulate.
Yeah, I can't wait to see it, man. Starts tonight. Red Wings at home, LCA. Hopefully the crowd's into it. Hopefully it's a kickoff to a successful run to the playoffs. And you never know. Just get in. That's the number one thing for now for this regime, because I do think that the Heat will definitely get kicked up for Steve Yzerman.
Well, let me ask you this. Yeah. If they don't make the playoffs this year, are you looking to make a change at the general manager position? No. Are you looking for somebody else to come in and kind of maybe tear this down and redo it, or maybe just kind of take it a little bit further and make it better?
No, I just look at Steve Yzerman's got carte blanche. There's no way that Ilitch is going to fire him. I think that they got a lot of youth. And I'm talking about a lot of youth. And if not, I think the year would be then 2025, because you look at it from the perspective of what they did, and everybody says, well, that first year doesn't count because he had to wash away all the bad contracts that were on the books, and it's a salary cap situation, and it takes time to develop, and a lot of the guys that they had that were 17, 18 are only going to be 23, 24, and now they're just primed to get opportunities. And you look at it and you say, okay, let's see what the young players that do get up here look like. What do they look like when Casper gets up here? What do they look like when a lot of the young cats from Sweden start to play? So I do think he gets one more kind of year where, yeah, the Heat will be hot, but if you don't make it by this following season coming up, then there'll be a huge issue. But no, you don't fire Steve Yzerman, because by and large, I think the league respects the moves that he's making, and they buy into the idea that this is a complete teardown rebuild, and he's going with the idea of this is sustained success. So I'm expecting once he gets rolling into the playoffs, then the expectation is perennially get to the Final Four, get to the Stanley Cup Finals, and have opportunities to win 2-3 cups, because that's what you're slow cooking to build is a young core that can sustain. And I think the final piece is you got to find the goalie. And I think when they get that young goalie the hot shot goalie that everybody respects and gets up here, then I think that's the guy he's hitching his wagon to. So
do you think it's Sebastian Costa?
Yeah.
Do you think it's him?
Yes.
Because
he's a monster.
When does he get to come up? Like, how long do we have to wait for him to be ready? Is kind of my question, because it seems like he was drafted forever ago. I know he wasn't. I know he's playing. I know he's played his way up, and now I believe he's at Grand Rapids. But at what point do you get that shot? It's like, is this going to be like a Jimmy Howard situation where it felt like Jimmy Howard was always the goalie, was always the guy that everybody talked about, and finally they gave Jimmy Howard a chance, and he was good, but he wasn't the guy that we were promised. Jimmy Howard was supposed to be the second coming of Christ, and he was just the most average goaltender you could see. So is he going to be that, or is he going to be Patrick Waugh-esque?
No, he's going to be like the Tampa Bay goalie that won the cups. Absolutely not.
Vladimir Tarasenko.
Bobrovsky.
Oh, damn. Was it?
Is it Bobrovsky or whatever it is?
No, not Bobrovsky. It's Andre. I think it's Andre.
Yeah, I'm looking up here because he was.
Shmechnikov? No, not Shmechnikov. Is it Shmechnikov? Maybe not. Oh, well, I know what you're talking. I know who you're talking about. I can't remember the name though.
Yeah, I'm gonna look it up here and say, Andre Vasilevsky.
Oh, Vasilevsky. Okay, that's it.
Yeah, cup-winning goalie, baby. Let's see what ends up happening with these Red Wings. It's going to be an exciting time. But turning our attention to the Lions after the bye week, man, it's good news. They're healthy. All 53 players practiced on Tuesday. Wednesday was the off day. Thursday they get back at it. And good news, man. You're hearing just really. Every week it should just be Doc and Jock appreciating Frank Ragnow. The dude is just always like got a torn pec. He's like, I don't want to miss games. He's like trying to punch Dan Campbell into walls to show him, hey, I'm okay, I'm strong, I can do things. It's amazing to see a guy that just embodies what you would like, and that's the definition of gritty. How do you not follow that? Guy partially tears his pec in a game and plays. I'd be out there crying. I'd be needing shots. I'd be out there being like, get me out of here. This guy's like, remember 2 years ago he had the throat issue. My God. When you had a chance, Cuz, to look at the Lions over the first 4 games, who impressed you? Who's the guy that's leading the way? It kind of feels like it's Aiden Hutchinson's team now with his ability to handle things and really bring the sacks, over 6 sacks to start the year. It has the feeling of a guy that's ready to embrace, hey, this is my situation. This is my squad. I want to be the best. He even said it to Sports Illustrated. He said, it's a different mindset. It's a different attitude when it's crunch time and pressure and you want to be the guy. In the past, maybe you didn't want to be that person, but now, as you mature and embrace the pressure and you embrace everything that goes on, I think it's great that he stepped up and said, hey, I'm going up against all these Yes, he's going up against all the backups, but hell, rack up those sacks against the backups. You don't control who you play. You just go out there and line up and play. So I think to me, the first quarter of the season MVP is Aiden Hutchinson, and thankfully, I thought, you know what, I'm not gonna lie, the bye week after 4 games was the right time. We still got some nice weather. We still got a chance to go outside. The health of the team was pretty rough, so having it at the time, now it's going to be a long 13 weeks for the likes of you and I covering it and watching it. But you know what? I've said it before and I'll say it again. Now you have a mission, which is 13 weeks, number 1 seed. You get a week off. And boy, would that be great to be the number 1 seed in the NFC. All games come and stay at Ford Field. I don't have to travel until the Super Bowl. And the opportunity would be spectacular to be able to it. Because who's your first quarter MVP and what was your assessment so far through 4 games?
I think when we go back and we look at what has kind of transpired through the first quarter of the season, this was a defense that really took over this team. The offense sputtered coming out of the gate. The offense struggled, and it was the defense that really kept them in games and gave them chances to win all 4 games. And when you look at the defense and you look at who sets the tone for the defense, I think it is Aiden Hutchinson. I think Aiden Hutchinson is the tone setter. He is the captain of that defense. He is the guy who says, follow my lead, get on the boat, and we're going. And he's the guy who just constantly is in the quarterback's hip pocket, constantly pressuring, constantly taking left or right tackles and spinning them around and trying to put all that pressure on the quarterback, forcing them to move fast, move quickly, and not really allowing those plays to build downfield. And he gets home a lot of the time. I'd like him to get home more, but the guy is a pressure machine, and I think it's because of him and what he's kind of brought, this attitude, this mentality to this defense that has really helped elevate it and make it something that you and I have talked about quite a bit, which I didn't expect this year. I did not expect that. I thought the defense was going to be better, but I didn't think it was going to be as good as it has been. And I think he's really helped elevate it and bring it to the forefront. And he's made us sit up, take notice. And I feel like every week we're talking about the Lions after a Lions game, and we're talking about how good the defense did and what the defense has done and what the defense has in front of it and how good can this defense get and how good can this defense be, which is a complete different tenor than what we were talking about last year, where it was, is this defense going to cost you a chance at a playoff spot? Is this defense going to cost you a big game? Is this defense going to be the reason you don't succeed. We're not talking like that anymore. We're talking about this defense really helping to carry this team. Now, we will kind of dissect some of the players on this team and dissect some of the guys on that defense and ask questions whether or not they might cost you a game. But I think by and large, as a whole, the defense is so much better than we ever anticipated and so much better than we thought it was going to be. And I think it's because of the tone that Aiden Hutchinson sets and brings every single game. Who's your first quarter MVP?
Yeah, it's Aiden Hutchinson. I just think that clearly on defense, it's great. It's an opportunity for this defense to set the tone, to be able to, if it's not him, it's Kirby Joseph, because the man's just a turnover machine. And he's kind of taken that leadership role with the young defensive backs, and having Brian Branch next to him has been great. So to that end, I'm happy with the defense. Still some work to do, clearly, with Terrion Arnold and Carlton Davis. They're still kind of giving up a lot of yards because it's just really tough because officials are just throwing so many flags against the Lions that you say, all right. And look, across the league, it's just that way in which defensive backs, it's just one of those things, bend, don't break, and they've had a good stretch. Clearly, that game against Seattle is a little eye-opening, but hey, they end up winning the game. The offense stepped it up, and you can win a bunch of different ways. So 3-1 record is great. Any big glaring concerns that you have? I think what everybody's kind of alarmed by is that the offense was really slow to cook. Many people would have expected that with the continuity, the talent, yeah, you got an emerging Jameson Williams, and you got some more talent, but I do think that the loss of Josh Reynolds kind of hurt the chemistry a little bit, and it kind of, and it's not an excuse, but it's just kind of the way it is nowadays. The first month offensively, it takes time to build the chemistry with exactly how precise and I'm not used to a coach just saying, look, I don't even think in the first quarter of the season we're going to be rolling as much as we think we are. And then to be able to still be 3-1, to have an outburst performance on Monday Night Football is crazy, where you're like, yeah, we kind of understand we're not playing our guys in the preseason. We're not going to risk it. I asked Dan directly, does seeing how slow your start is offensively change your mind? No. He's like, look, we practice hard. And he's like, directly, we practice 60 reps as opposed to giving them 15 in a game where they're kind of going 3/4 speed? Nah, he's like, we're going to roll this way. And the blessing is, we're sitting here talking about a 3-1 team that's kind of played B- football. It's crazy. But to me, my big glaring concern is the offense. I think the run game could be better. The passing attack could be certainly better. But 3-1 with improvements that can be made, look out. I think that if this is a slow build, just like the chili that everybody makes that takes a little time, you don't want to, turn up the heat right away. You just kind of nice and slow, season it, get it ready to go, and tinker with it over a couple hours, and then it's ready to go, and then boom, it's delicious, and everybody can enjoy it. So we're kind of like the sourdough that you guys make. I still have yet to taste this sourdough bread, so I'm going to have to start putting in the order. It's been, let's say, 2 years of seeing sourdough photos, and every time I see it, I'm like, I could ask, but I'm going to wait and see. Does he just bring one over? Does he just say, hey, Doc, I'm going to come to Sterling Heights and drop one off? I know you're pumping out.
Next time we come over to the house,
I think we'll bring a loaf. 6 a week. 6 a week and over the course of 2 years. So that's 24. That's 240. That's 750 loaves that have not entered my dish. So I'm going to have to put one order because they look good. So
they're very good.
Yeah, and the photos have been perfect dough, perfect this, and I'm like, damn, I'm gonna have to come over and try one. So pretty soon, I will, no longer be patient. I'll just come over and say, look, make me some sourdough, cuz, and I want some. So we'll try it. But in the end, look, slow and steady wins the race. They're 3-1, and we can complain about the offense, but they have a winning record.
Yeah, look, I think the offense has been, by and large, a gigantic disappointment for all Lions fans. Now, the fact that they are 3-1 with the offense kind of struggling the way it has, I think that's a good sign, especially for where we want to be at the end of the season. But I think not having a guy like Josh Reynolds, who really was the security blanket for Jared Goff, I think that hurt to start the season. I think Sam Laporta being banged up going into the season also hurt. You have to remember, he's a huge target, especially in the red zone. This was a team that operated at such efficiency last year in the red zone. it was unreal. Every time they would get in the red zone, I think it was like 84% of the time, or no, I think it was more than that. It might have been like 92% of the time. They were coming away with a touchdown. So this was a team that was able to put the ball into the end zone and come away with 6 regularly. This year hasn't really happened that way. I think you also have other pieces that you're constantly trying to work in, and you're trying to figure out how everybody's going to eat, right? Like all of a sudden you've got Jameson Williams who's got to get the ball. He's got to touch the rock because he's a game changer. Amon-Ra still has to get the rock because he's your number 1 wide receiver. Sam Laporta, when healthy, needs to see the ball. You're trying to work in a guy like Tim Patrick, who I think so far might be the most underrated offensive player on this team right now. I know he's only played a couple of games, but I think he is going to be a better version of Josh Reynolds. Big wide receiver. He's got really good hands. He's got good speed. Him and Jared Goff need to build more of that rapport, and I think he's going to take off. I really liked Tim Patrick when he played for Denver. I thought he was an underrated wide receiver. Then the guy has been hampered by injuries in back-to-back years. I think the Lions got a deal on him by picking him up off of waivers. So I think he was a bit of a steal. I think you got to also figure out how to get the running backs kind of going. And I think the one thing that you've seen in that last game that they had no problem working in the running backs, both running backs, in one series. It really felt like for the first 3 weeks, it was like, okay, this is David's series. All right, now we're going to go to Jameer. Now we're going to go back to David. Now we're going to go back to Jameer. And instead, it's kind of been one of those things where it's like, all right, Jameer, you're in. All right, David, you're in. And you're just kind of rolling them and mixing them. And I think as the season progresses and as this offense kind of gets built out a little bit more, you're going to see Jahmyr Gibbs line up more in a slot position. You're going to have David Montgomery on the field. I think it's going to be one of those things where they really spread stuff out, and they're going to be able to take advantage of defenses. But the offense as a whole, I think, completely and utterly disappointing. I think for me specifically, I think Sam Laporta and his performance, and look, I get he's not 100%. I get going into the year he wasn't 100%. To me, you could have put Shane Zylstra out there and you could have IR'd Sam Laporta and you would have got the same production from the tight end position. I don't think Sam Laporta really gave you a whole lot in those first 3 games, gave you a little bit more in that 4th game, but I think you haven't even scratched the surface of what you know you can get out of Sam Laporta. So his role in the first quarter of the season has been very, very disappointing to me. And I expect him to step up this second half of the season. This second, I guess, quarter, I'm expecting him to kind of go gangbusters. I'm thinking he will be the guy who will kind of explode. But I think another guy that you should watch for to really kind of ratchet up his play, get a little bit more comfortable. It's a good thing the bye week came when it did, because it kind of helps readjust, reset the tone, kind of reset that focus. And that's going to be a guy like Terrion Arnold. I think Terrion Arnold has played very well through the first 4 games. I know that we have talked a lot about his penalties, and I think his penalties are an issue. I think some of that's going to get sorted out as the season continues. I think as we make our way through these next 4 games and we get to the first half of the season, I think you're going to see Terrion Arnold's game get better and better and better each and every week. And he's going to be a guy who is going to step up his play. And I think those penalties will start to lessen. And I think he's going to start to make big plays as the season wears on. Who's the guy that you see stepping up as we get through this first half of the season?
Yeah, to me, it's the leader, Jared Goff. Too many interceptions. I thought that he forced a couple balls that you realize, man, that's not really a pass that a veteran of his caliber should be making in terms of the middle of the field. I think that teams are kind of forcing him to do a little bit more of checkdowns and things like that because of the too high safety and different looks. They're doing some things to try and limit what the offense can do, and you just got to be patient. And that's a situation with Goff, is that you just got to limit the turnovers. It's a little bit high to start the year, and once he settles in and keeps connecting with Jameson Williams and Amon-Ra St. Brown, Tim Patrick's coming along. Once Goff gets cooking, then this team will go as far as Jared Goff takes them, and I'm excited to see. And I'm excited to see the potential that this offense can have to get better, and especially going up into a big matchup, Week 6 on the road against Jerry Jones. If you check out lines on SI, the officiating crew has been announced. It's not bad. The second fewest flags thrown. Maybe there's an opportunity. I love the fan base of the Lions. They're all messaging at Detroit Podcast. They're like, I don't care who the official is. Once Jerry takes them on the boat, then all the flags are going to start. So Terry and Arnold, Carlton Davis, hopefully they get to play a little bit. You don't need CeeDee Lamb running all over the place. I think that Dak and CeeDee will be the focus. You're catching a Cowboys team that's a little bit banged up. You just hope that it's a fair game and that the players on the field can dictate what goes on. Before we talk about our preview real fast, any eyebrow raising to hearing the news that Robert Saleh got fired? Do you think that
I was wondering if you were going to bring this up.
Of course I'm going to bring it up because obviously everybody
That's your dude, your Middle Eastern brethren.
Yeah, it was tough, man. It was a tough situation. I just think that it was a mix where I think Saleh made a mistake bringing in Hackett. I think once the pitch was made for him to get Aaron Rodgers, I think Saleh should have put his foot down and said, get me the hell out of here. Hell no. It's tough to win with a 40-year-old quarterback, especially once he goes down with that injury. You got to draft the quarterback. You got to get the guy. And I think that he's partly to blame. There's a lot of things that he did wrong in terms of his leadership, but bro, he's got a top 10 defense. He's got a big skill. So I do think he's a little bit better than Aaron Glenn, but not by much. But I do think that if Glenn goes to take a job in Jacksonville or takes a job or takes an opportunity, man, that'd be great. Either at the Lions or Michigan State. I think Saleh is perfect here because he'd be aggressive. Everybody would take the step forward, and you would see the defensive line just continue to be hella awesome. So it's just a tough spot. Do you see that maybe being a fit? Or you say, you know what? Hell, if you're Robert Saleh, you got another guaranteed year. You get your money this year and next year. So you get money to do nothing if you want, but I do think he'll be coveted. But I don't know. I think being a head coach is different. But I do see some Todd Bowles in him where in 5 years he goes to a situation that's a little bit better with building an offense. And I think he'll learn from flopping so epically. You got to run the whole ship, and you can't just be a defensive guru in your job. So to me, I think he'd be great here. And clearly, yes, him beating Middle Eastern. But bro, I love defense. And the man, he limited the Vikings to less than 20 points offensively, and he just has the knack for a violent, aggressive defense that can be top 10, and that might be the final piece you need to get over the hump. If this defense falls flat, you might even say, I'm biased, clearly, but if the defense doesn't step up this year, I say Dan Campbell makes the tough move and brings in Saleh. He's better, I think, even if it's 5% better. It's 5% better in the secondary, 5% better in the defensive line, more blitzes, more pressure. You're going to see less than 15 points allowed. Man, so you hope that it's not at the expense of Glenn losing his job. You hope that he just gets a head coaching job. But, man, Saleh being on the market is crazy, and it was unfortunate news because of the timing, too, of when it happened. He's wearing the patch and all that kind of shit. But I would love to see Saleh in Detroit. And it would be, I think, a situation in which you'd have maybe a little more access to the coach. It'd be kind of cool for us, too.
Yeah, look, I would be lying if I didn't think about everything you just laid out, right? So, when moves in the NFL happen or when guys become free agents or stuff like that occurs, first thing I think is, okay, how can it better the Detroit Lions?
Yes.
So I would be ecstatic if Robert Saleh became the defensive coordinator of the Detroit Lions if things with Aaron Glenn don't either A, work out or he takes another job. So I would be pumped. I was surprised that he was fired.
Yeah.
Like, this is a guy who has the second best defense in the NFL. And this is a guy whose defense hasn't given up, I think it's any more than 16 points all season. They had a game where I think they ended up losing by 23 points, but that's because Aaron Rodgers threw a pick six.
Yeah.
That's not on the defense. Defensively, his team is great. It's the offensive struggles that have killed that team. I think Aaron Rodgers obviously got him fired. Aaron Rodgers is a weird freaking dude, and I think his fate was sealed the moment that he hopped aboard that jet with the front office, with the rest of the coaching staff, and basically went and begged Aaron Rodgers to come over from Green Bay, and then they gave up everything they gave up to get Aaron Rodgers. I think it was kind of a sealed deal there. Like, you could look at it and you're like, all right, well, writing's on the wall. This probably isn't going to work. And if it does work, it better work quick. And then Aaron Rodgers goes down with the Achilles injury, and then Hackett's brought in, and it's just like Hackett is just I don't know how he has a job. Obviously, it's because him and Aaron Rodgers are butt buddies, but it is a weird mix. Look, man, I hope the Jets fall flat on their face.
Yeah.
I don't care about them. I only really cared about them because of Robert Saleh. I wanted to see what was going to happen with him. I find them to be comical. I think they're a clown show. But I think if it was to work out that way, where he was to become the DC for the Detroit Lions, I think that would be great. Could you imagine having him and Dan Campbell as your coaches? Like, I would just like to walk into
Right.
the Lions training facility at 4:30 in the morning, watching these dudes basically speedball fucking coffee and watch them just freebasing pre-workout while they're lifting. You're like, who can bench more? Let's go.
Or if one game goes bad, they could actually fight each other. Like the testosterone level would get so high, the egos would get so high where Dan Campbell looks at Robert and Robert looks at him, and they just go at it.
Here's the thing too. I think Dan Campbell could teach him a thing or two, because you got to remember Dan Campbell was a positional coach. He's tight ends coach.
Yep.
When things went south his first year, he became the offensive coordinator.
Yep.
He slowly worked in Ben Johnson and helped groom Ben Johnson, but he became the offensive coordinator. And this guy was doing double duty, head coach and offensive coordinator.
Right.
And so, like, these are things that you can learn as a guy like Robert Saleh, kind of being, I don't want to say groomed, but just kind of seeing how other guys do it, taking a little bit and learning from it.
Yeah,
so.
no doubt. And then his next opportunity that he would take could be more fruitful. But yeah, I think the mistake was when he let LaFleur go. I think that he was, he hired LaFleur a little too early. He didn't have enough experience, but the idea is great because he understands that offense. He went away from clearly something that could have worked. I think that once the idea was pitched to potentially bring in Aaron Rodgers, I think he should have denied it. I think he should have said, you know what? This is something, it's just one of those risks you try, but if it doesn't go bad, you're going to get fired. And I just think giving up control of everything to Hackett was really bad. It's just one of those things where you got to have your hand in the game, and that's what you got to do, and that's the big mistake that he made. But turning our attention to Dallas, are you concerned? What's your confidence level? Do the Lions get the win? I see a win, close game, 27-26, 27-24. Lions do well. Revenge is on the mind, and I think because Prescott's going to throw the ball probably 40 times, I think the defensive line's going to snack and get all over him. Get some turnovers too.
So I would be lying if I told you I didn't have PTSD, because every time they go to Dallas, every time they're in Jerry's world, something stupid always happens. You can just go back through the annals of history and you can see all the dumb stuff that takes place. So I would be lying to you if I haven't had second thoughts about where I feel this team's going to go this week. But you kind of seen it last week, right? I feel like this is the revenge tour. This was a team that took care of business against Seattle. That's a team that has had their number, three years straight. This is going to be the third year in a row that they're playing Dallas. I don't think Dallas has their number this year. I think they have revenge on their mind. I think they're upset about what took place last year. I think you look at this Dallas team, it is highly dysfunctional right now. You have a coach who's on his way out the door. You've got CeeDee Lamb, who just signed a monster contract, who is not happy with his quarterback. You have a quarterback in Dak Prescott who has been playing so uneven and has turned the ball over quite a bit. You don't really have a running game there. I mean, the fact that they brought Ezekiel Elliott back, Ezekiel Elliott really should be a third string running back, maybe a second string running back. There's no reason he should be your starter. So defensively, they're a little bit banged up as well. So I think the offense can snack on that defense while that defense snacks on Dak Prescott. You just really have to contain CeeDee Lamb. Do that, you're going to be okay. I think this team goes into Dallas. They right the wrongs. Revenge tour is underway. They scratch this off the history list, right? Like, you want to win the Super Bowl. You want to kind of change narratives. You want to show that this team is better than it was a year ago. This is how you do it. You get a win in Jerry's world and you roll. All that being said, coming off the bye week, I think you're going to be fresher. I think that offense has kind of settled down and figured some stuff out. I think Sam Laporta has a day, because it's about time for that guy to have a day. I think the Lions roll 34-21.
Yes. And the one difference the last 2 years, DSP was not in the house. I'll be in Dallas. I'll be in Jerry World to give the review for everybody next week. I'm going to Dallas, getting on a plane to cover a primetime game, 4:25 Sunday afternoon. I want to be able to be there and help everybody. And also, too, self-serving. Everyone says that, hey, Jerry World is top-notch service in terms of treating the media. So hopefully 2 flights safely, get back Monday at noon and report back on a win, get to 4-1. It's a tough stretch. Then you go to Minnesota and you have an opportunity then to hopefully, I hope they stay undefeated so that you can go and ruin their start to the season. It'll be a nice matchup. It's a tough stretch. You got Minnesota, you got Houston upcoming, you got the Packers. So it's a nice stretch, and hopefully this football team gets off to the start after the bye with a nice note. So let's see what happens. Hopefully 4-1 is on the horizon. Make sure you follow Adam on Twitter for everything related to hockey as well, at AdamRSTROZ, the foremost definitely voice regarding hockey here on the network, understands everything. Make sure if you agree or disagree, if you think that Steve Yzerman's untouchable this year, next year, forever and a day, you just give him the key and say, cook and we'll wait. Let us know. Hit us up. I'm curious to see the patience level of the supporters here in Detroit regarding Steve Yzerman. Let us know what you think of the Tigers. Are they World Series bound? Are we underselling the team? Are they, as we watch them up 2-0 in the 5th inning in Game 3, are they the team? Let us know. I can't wait to break it all down next week, cuz great podcast recording. I can't wait for next week for the next recording of the Doc and Jock podcast.
You fucking podcasters. I said don't let them in here.